Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream again. Can you give a thumbs up if everything is audible? Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, let's see. Do we have a. Awesome. How's everyone doing today? Are you excited for the day two of Chrome extension with React? Let's fix this really quick. Cool. So I think we're gonna just get into it directly, and I would love to see some messages in the chat as well because then we will be testing it as well. So yesterday, what we were able to do finally were from the restream chat, we were able to open the chat and we were able to observe the messages. So this is the extension that we are building, and I can do start observing messages, stop observing messages, and if I start doing that, you can see that now I can see all the messages that are right here. And then if I stop observing messages, so I can go here and stop. And now you can see that with this action, now we don't observe the messages. So the idea for this extension is I want to be able to send messages to my application via which then anyone would be able to do something like this. And then you see there, you see the score. So that is the idea, that people would be able to just send a message and they will see their names right here. Okay, so that's the idea. So far what we have been able to do with this Chrome extension is we are able to see the restream chat, and we are able to now see also the messages right here. We need to parse those messages, and then we need to process and then forward them to the other application. So that is the whole idea. Now I think we don't really need to I think we don't really need to add anything or add a backend for this. I think if we use something like Firebase, we should be able to get the messages on the other side if we use the real-time Firebase database. And we can sort of utilize that as a notification system from one application to another. That's what I think. But we are going to get into it and then we'll see if that works fine. So we're going to start with parsing the message. So if I go to my code right here, we do have our pop-up CS, our pop-up TSX, in which we do have our buttons for the pop-ups. Now I think I could also start using Tailwind CSS if that was the case. Should I start using Tailwind? I think I could start using Tailwind, to be honest. Let's install it. So let's go with Tailwind CSS because I do want to have some styles, and I do like Tailwind for my applications. So for this Chrome extension as well, let's go with Tailwind CSS. So using framework guides, do we have post CSS in here? Let's look at package.json, post CSS. No, we don't. So then what we can do is, and we are using Webpack for this. So I think we would be able to see. So we are using style loader, CSS loader, Sass loader, and inside source pages, content, no, sorry, pop-up, we do have do, 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 do. Let's see, we do have the index CSS, and if I look at the pop-up CSS, I should be able to see it right there. So in the Webpack config, we should have a pop-up pop-up, and there we have the entry point for those. And I think in the HTML we do have this the IDs as well. And then from the index TSX, yes, so this is where we include the styles. So if we include anything from the indexed CSS, I think this is going to be included everywhere completely. So yeah, we can absolutely add this, I think. Let's see, Webpack. Do we have anything for Webpack? No. Using post CSS, I think we can go with this one. And let's go with this. We do have the tailwind CSS, blah blah blah. To the output, no. Let's go with post CSS. So let's start with this one. So we're gonna install tailwind CSS, and then we can also create the tailwind CSS in it. Let's do it like this. And then we need to add tailwind CSS and auto prefixer. So in the tailwind config.js, we're going to add the plugins into the post CSS file. Wait a second. Add tailwind CSS and auto prefixer to your post CSS config.js, but I don't have post CSS yet. Wait a second. So I would then have to use it. Then I would have to install post CSS itself. Okay, explore framework guides, Next.js, Laravel, Vite, Gatsby, and we are using, I mean, anything with Webpack should be okay. Let's see, Tailwind, CSS with Webpack. And this was in 2021. And this is the next one. So we do install a bunch of packages. We start with this one. And then I think I think the post CSS loader is the one that we are looking at. And config file. Okay, so then we need to install post CSS. I don't think we have that. Packages on post CSS. Oh, now we have that. So then we need to create this guy, the post CSS config. Let's see, this guy. Let's copy this. So we should have a post css.config.js. We can include this right here. And we probably should have this by default, but we'll see. Did we have to install it as well? Yes, we did. So post CSS preset env, we need to install it. Npm install save dev post CSS preset env. Okay, then for the CSS and SCSS, we need the post CSS loader. So let's add that really quick. So if I go to my webpack config, where we are using the style loader, let's also use the post CSS loader as well. Let's use it in the same way as the other one. So loader, post CSS loader. Hopefully this does not break anything. So let's first try to see if everything works. So npm start. If things start to break, then we have a problem. And then we also need to upgrade the tailwind config as well, but we'll see. Let's hope for the best. Okay, so we got error. Can't resolve post CSS loader. That's because we have not installed it. So npm install dash save dev, post CSS loader. There should have been a couple of more things as well. So we got style loader, CSS loader, post CSS loader, and post CSS env. So we missed this one. Let's try to do this again. And apart from that, I don't think there's much more to it. Then we just need to tell the content. That should be fine. Yeah, I think that should be it. Cool. So our application now works well. For the post CSS one, for the content, we need to tell tailwind CSS where to see our code or where to see our HTML and TypeScript files. So we are supposed to do it in the pop-up. So here, what I can do is I can say in the content, we are supposed to do, if I go to tailwind again, post CSS. So this guy right here, this is the one where we want to have all the files. So inside the pages, I mean, we do have containers as well, but I think pages is the one that we want. So we can do something like content. And here we can say source and any folder that has a HTML or TSX. And that should be good. So now that we have this running, let's try to see if our extension gets built. So now if I try to go to my extensions, if I reload this guy, go back to restream, click this, we do have some things right there. So we're gonna start with changing the color. So pop-up index HTML, and maybe we can start with the pop-up TSX and the topmost content, which is class name app. But we're gonna start with something like BG red 900, and let's see if that starts applying. And do we have the tailwind CSS extend tailwind config here, content, blah blah blah? Yeah, seems like it. And then if I do, let's see if I can see the classes. Oh, we did not add one thing. We missed one thing, and that was adding this to the index CSS. So we need to go to our index CSS, and on top, we need to add this guy. And now we should be able to see the background. Yay! So Chrome extension that we are working with, we can see the background, and now we can also start working on the buttons. So we're going to keep it simple and then focus on the functionality, and then we are going to enhance it forward. So we do have two buttons right now. We have this one and the other one. So in the pop-up CSS, we can start, and I think for the tailwind CSS configuration, we can also tell it to work with CSS files as well. I mean, we could try doing it by default. For example, if I go ahead and do into pop-up TSX and remove this background from here, now the extension shows there's no background. But if I go into my CSS and in the pop-up CSS, if I apply here the CSS for BG purple, I don't know, 500, you can see that it works. So for the CSS, it automatically works because we installed that in the HTML. Okay, so cool. I think we can go with something like no, BG Indigo, and let's go with something like 800. And then we can also have a text white as well. Text white. And now we can have some buttons. So for the buttons, let's create a particular style here. So we can say something like action button. And I like to keep my classes having a small or the kebab case where every letter is small. So we're gonna use the same here. So now that we have this, let's add this style and call this action button. And this should be applied to both of the action buttons as well. Let's quickly style this a bit. So we shouldn't have a header here. We should have a main, I think. And actually this should be main, and this should be a section. And inside here, I don't think we need the app header class here, to be honest. But what do we have in the app header? Is it the height 100%, flex, blah, blah, blah. We could call this something like main section. And we can go there to say, let's make it main section. Let's call it class name main section. And now inside here, we can have the two buttons. So in the main section, we could have actions. And inside that, we have the action buttons. So we have the class name here, action button. Taha Mohammed, hey, how's it going, Taha? How are you? सर हैकस्टैक की सीट्स फिल हो गई हैं? नॉट येट. हैकस्टैक की रजिस्ट्रेशन अभी तक ऑन है, so there's still time. So then we have but actually I don't think we need the styles for action. Wait a second. So we don't need this one. We can just say flex items or flex call item center. No, items center. And I think I have an extension that I need to get rid of. Font awesome. Font awesome codes. I need to uninstall this. I don't want this extension anymore. Okay, so we have this now. Now we can also have a gap of 4. And now we can also have the action button style. So let's go to the action button. Sir, it shows this event is currently full. Is that when you submit the teams? मैं देख सकता हूँ. Give me 1 second. I think it should not be full yet. GDG Kulaji. Asharib Kamal, thank you. Asharib, make sure to repost this on LinkedIn if you like what's happening here. Okay. So this is supposed to be the link of registrations. Blah blah blah. Open this into my browser. Preview. I can still see the form. GDG event platform registering from there. No, don't register from there. You have a registration form. So follow the form. I don't know if you can see this. So team registration. This is the one. So follow the one that says team registration. Go to LinkedIn, and then you can see on LinkedIn you can see the link to the form or the registration form. So fill that registration form. Don't go from the event. Okay. So registrations will be closed soon. I'm not sure when, but soon. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's go back to the app. Here we should have button padding. So we can say PX2, PY 1.5, BG dark or BG slate 900, text white. So, and then I also rounded MD. So here you can see that now we have nice little buttons. Maybe we can increase the PX to 3. So it looks a bit, more. Then we also should have a duration 200, and then we can apply hover styles. So hover slate 700. So now when I mouse over it, you can see nice little animations here as well. Maybe we can do from 800 or 900 to 800, so it's not too weird. And now when we click this, we can see the actions. So keeping it simple, we can still see the start and stop observing messages. Okay. Sharif says, "Okay, sure, sir. You're doing great work. Thank you so much." So now that we have these buttons, let's start working on the implementation of it. We have a good UI, so now we can start working on the implementation side of it. So I think the way I would want to structure this is I want to have not the containers rather, but I want to have, so we have the pages where we have a pop-up, but I want to have certain let's create a core folder, and then inside the core we would move the actions. So we need to also update all the imports. VS Code did it automatically for me, and now I can also see for the core we should also have something like a message parser or something that we can use to create messages or parse messages. So we do have a let's say mm, how do we want to do this? We should have a messages um, parser.ts. And now I want to keep my file names nicer. So for example, the pages are small. New tab, panel. So the component names can be still, but I think this one can be message parser.ts. Or although this is a class, so I'll keep it like this. So then what I want to do is I want to create a class in which we have a parser, and that parser can essentially work with messages. So what I want to do here is to create a class that is called let's see. So let's talk about the message first. So a message can have multiple things. It has a username, it has some text, and it has an image. Three things. So we are going to get those three things from the messages, and then we'll display them as well. So let's create a class called message. And in this message, we will have a couple of things. For example, and we'll export this class as well. So this is supposed to receive an HTML element. And from the HTML element, it's going to convert that into a JavaScript object containing the messages. So what we are going to do is we are going to say, maybe we'll name it message class. So in this case, we have a constructor. And then once we get the constructor, we're just going to console log this. And we can also say element or private element, HTML element. And this is going to be HTML div element because that's what we usually get. And then what we want to do here is we need to get an element that is supposed to be an HTML div element. So our extension, when we click start observing messages, it will observe the messages. It will create or send or create this message from the HTML element. So it needs an HTML element. Now what I want to do is I want to do this dot element equals to element. So we do get the element first. Then I'm going to just console log this, the entire object, and that's pretty much it. So now if I try to go ahead and if I do something like from my, not from the actions, but from my content, if I go to pages, content, index.ts, when I do observe messages, when I do all messages for each parse message element, instead of this, I want to create a new message, so to say. So what I can do now is I can do something like removing this, and I can say for each messages or all message elements, we do a for each. Then we have a element, and then what we want to do from this element is we want to do a new message. So we're going to say something like const message equals new message here. So we are going to rename this file to message.class or message.ts, and then we have the message class right here. This requires an element, so I'm going to pass the element, and now we have a message created. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to run the npm run build and serve. So let's quickly do npm run build to make sure that we can build this and create a message as well. Rajput says, sir, is there a way to find a team or to join, like where people are searching for members? That's a good point. That's a really good point. Maybe what you can do is you can join the Code with Ahsan Discord, and we can start it from there. That's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that. So let's open Discord. And let's go and create a channel where you can find. So in the community, let's create a channel which is supposed to be so we can have this one. Let's create one for hack stack Pakistan 2023. And let's create a channel. So here we can send a message. Okay, so I can give you the link for the Discord. So the Discord link is this one. Is essentially, if you go to codewithahsan.dev/discord, you'll get into the Discord. And once you get inside, just go to the Hackstack Pakistan 2023. And then here you can find team members. Okay. So I'm going to instruct everyone to do that. So you can also do the same then. All right. So far, if I now go and refresh my extension, clear this guy and go to restream. And then if I try to go to my extension, start observing messages, we should be able to see could not establish connection. Start observing. Oh, I probably need to restart my page as well. Okay, let's do it. All right. So now if I try to do this, so we got the action, but there are no messages. Can you send some messages in the chat so we can observe them? You can send something like testing or something, because this is constantly observing the message, but there's no message right now. Asharif says you pronounce my name very well. Yes, thank you. All right, let's do this then. So now you can see that we get the element just like this on every 3 seconds. So let's quickly do this again. Do we have a way of sending build prod. So this runs with build, but I do want to see if anything changes, then we do a rebuild. Maybe we'll implement that later. So now what I want to do is a couple of things. First, I want to observe with a timer of with a timer that is the delay. Where is the delay? Start. So here we can have const observe interval in ms, or here we have by default let's do a 3 seconds and then use this right here. So now we are going to observe every 3 seconds instead of every 1.5 seconds. Then when we create a message, let's not log this. And now what I want to do is I want to create an object out of it. So this message needs a couple of things. So we would have a message that is going to be of type string. We are going to have a image URL that's going to be of type string, and then we are going to have a username that is going to be of type string. So now what I want to do is I want to parse this. I want to parse the message to create this. So then what I want to do is I want to do this dot parse message, and I'm going to pass this dot element in there. So when I do this, the parse message will take the element, HTML div element, and then it's going to create the rest of the stuff. So how do we do this? Let's say that we got this message. So if I look at the div right here, and let's stop observing messages. So so in this particular case, if I look at the now I need to start observing message. Stop. Oops. Start observing message. Blah blah blah. Stop. So now if I look at this particular element, you can see that this element has the message somewhat around here in this div. You have something called MUI avatar circle, and inside that we have the image, right? So we can probably extract this guy and then inside the image. So then what I'll do is I'll say const image element equals element dot query selector, and the query selector here is going to be MUI event circle image. So when I get an image, then I can assign it to image element. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this dot image URL equals image element dot src, or you can say get attribute, and here we can say src. So when you get the source element, and we can also say as HTML image element, I think then we should be able to just do dot src. Yeah. So when we have the HTML image element, we can get it, and then we can assign the image URL just like this. And let's make these like this, because when we do parse message, then we actually generate them. So now that we have this, we can now go ahead and do the rest of the stuff. So this is going to be the image. Then if we have a look at the text or the username, which is right here, you can see that it comes inside wrap blah 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 paper round, and inside that we have something like, what is a unique identifier here? I mean, we do have the subtitle too that we could use. However, I mean, yeah, I think we can use this guy. So let's do this. For this one, we can say const username element equals element dot query selector. In here, we can do this. And that is a exact element, right? Yes. As, and this is also a HTML div element. And then we can do this dot username equals username element dot text content. And finally, what we also need is the message. Now this is going to be tricky because we'll see what this says. So we do have something like MUI typography body 1. I don't think there's a better way of doing this at the moment. I mean, we could use XPath as well, but that is the same as the other one as well. But if any class changes, that's gonna break. But if anything else changes, that's also gonna break. So let's see. Maybe we can ask Restream to maybe use some IDs so we can work with the extensions. But we'll see. So in this case, we do have the types MUI typography body 1, and we can then say chat text normal. Or actually, let's pick this one, chat text normal. So then we can say, oh, okay. So we can have a text content or not. So that's fine. Then we can have const text element equals element dot query selector, and we have a chat text normal. And this is a span. So we can then say this dot message. Let's rename this to text equals text element dot text content. And this is going to be as HTML span element. Or let's keep it like this. It doesn't really matter because we are not using anything specific there. I think even for this one, we don't really need this. Username element is possibly null. It is not supposed to be null, to be honest. All right, let's keep it like this. So now that we have this, we can now see the message itself. So in the extension or in the content script, which is running on the page, now I can actually console log the message. And I can say something like message. And now we can run the build and then see if this works as it should. So essentially, we are observing every single message, and every single message is going to be created via this message class, so we can work with it. Lastly, what are you building? I'm building an extension, a Chrome extension for Restream, so I can observe this chat and send it to my own server or something. So it's a Chrome extension built with React. So now if I try to do this, I'm going to have to refresh this. Let's see, go here, start observing messages, and then I can say test. All right, so now I got a message that you just sent, and now I can see the element, the image URL, the text, the username, everything. So far we've got the image, the text, and the username. Now the only thing that I want to do is to be able to send this to my server or somewhere where I can see that app, and then essentially when I have that application, then I should be able to do this with your messages. So I should be able to do this. So you see an score, and you see this guy running there. Do I have two of them? Yes, I do have two of them. Why do I have two of them? Where's the other drop game? Is it the meme screen? No. Where is this coming from? What? Where is this coming from? Drop game is, wait a second. Framework Spore. Yes. Okay. There we go. Because I was like, what? What's happening? Okay, so now we have only one. That makes sense. So now I can see arg cool, and this is a message both coming right here, which means that then I would also have to see if a message is already done or not. So ideally, we should not have any message that is already parsed, but I think that's more of an improvement, so to say. So what I'll do is now I will ensure that every message that we parse gets either marked as done or not. So this would already be something like sent. And I'm thinking now, what should we do? Because it's going to observe for every new change. So what it should do actually is, once this is marked as done, this should also add an ID to it, right? And let's say when we have a parse message, then what we should do is we should say something like, I don't know, this dot element dot, we can give this a UUID. So we can say something like set attribute UUID, and we are going to do self.crypto.random UUID. So what we do here is we essentially, or we can do something like window.crypto or crypto.random UUID. So what we are doing actually here is we are saying that once we have processed a particular element, we set its let's set the data dash UUID. So then wait a second. Dataset dot, we do have the dataset, right? So dataset, and that is supposed to be a DOM string map. Dataset. So we have dash style to camel case conversion, blah blah blah. The dataset properties directly, but not directly written. Instead, all the rights must be individual to properties with the dataset. In turn, so HTML data blah 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 dataset property. Okay, because I remember the setting the dataset was a bit different. So dataset example equals null. It's converted to okay. Aha. Okay. Okay. So then what we need to do is to set the dataset, because that's what I want to do. So I want to do element dot dataset dot ID or UUID, and then this can be set to crypto dot random UUID. And once I do this, then when we are trying to get the elements, we are going to say, all right, only get those elements which don't have a data UUID yet, because that would mean that we have not processed them yet. So then we can go to our content script, and here in the query, we are going to say any class or any grid item that does not have a data ID. Is that right? Yes. So in this case, we should be saying if element dot data. I mean, we can probably do it better with the query. I think if we do something like, all right, let's see. Let's ask Google. So JavaScript query selector with elements not having a data set property without using but I want to do but I don't want to select data for yes. Hmm. Oh, but then I just have to do not. No, wait a second. Hmm. Yeah, I think I just would have to do a not and data UUID, and I think that should be good. I think. Let's see. So if I try to get this right now, let's see. Let's test this. So if I go to restream, and let's say I'm now, let's first stop observing messages. So right now, if I try to do document.query selector all with this, you can see I get two, right? So two those messages. Now let's say if I go to one of those and I say something like, hey, this is gonna have also a data UUID. is going to be a random string. And then if I go here and then I try to do the same, that works. But if I say not data UUID, then I get 1. Hey, so this is going to be the one. So then I think this should work. So not data UUID. Then every time we are observing, we just process one of those and then we just only see the new ones. So let's run this again, npm run build. I mean, it could be that we assign or we say that we have processed it and we have sent it now. But it's fine. We can improve it later. So now I can go here, I can reload this guy, go to my extension, refresh the page, and then I can remove all of this. Now let's try it with some test messages. So start observing. Now I can say test, and you can see that now I should get 1 test. And now after 3 seconds, I'm not getting anything at all. So test 2, test 3. And now next one should only be test 3. Okay, so now you can see that once these are processed, we don't see them anymore. And if I go here, I should have the data UUID here. You can see the data UUID. So every element has their data UUID that we can see now. Cool. That makes perfect sense. So what I also want to have is a list of all the messages that we are processing. So ideally, we should only be processing all the messages, and we should be then pushing them into our message array. So what we do is we search for the next elements and we push them into an array. So here we can say that we have a messages array, and this messages array would be actually of type message and the type of array of messages. And then what we'll do is we'll just push the messages dot push message. So every time we get a new one, we can always see the messages array, and then we can push them right here, right? Okay, so let's also change this to restream messages dot push message. Okay, so every time we get something, we push them into this array, and we should then be able to see those as well. Now the next thing is, once we have got this, we just need to send that to Firebase and somehow receive it on the other side, so we can frequently see them. Does that make sense so far? And let's double check it here as well. So we see always the messages that are being done. We're also going to do one thing, that is, now that we have this, we need a Firebase application, and then also we need to work with the overlay that we have here. So we are working with a Firebase application, but for the drop.js, we do have a drop app which we deploy to some place. We do have a Firebase config, and then I think when we add the app that I have already is built with the logic that when we have a new message, it essentially can see that message and then work with it. So let me see. I wrote this like in 2021. This should be in components, drops weld, 21 months ago. So what we do here is we use a client, then we have a drop command that we get a message, then we take the follower ref from the Twitch bot. I don't want to code this from scratch. I mean, I could, but I think the idea would be still to get this without Oh, how many lines of code did I read? It's about 500 lines of code. That makes perfect sense. Mm, okay. So now the question is, now that we have got the message from the Restream chat, what do we want to do? Should we send it to an API call, or should we work with Firebase for this? Because so far, I think it looks nice that we have the message being parsed and we have an array of messages as well. Every time we get a message, we are sort of creating the message and then we are parsing that as well. Um, but then each message, what it should do is important. So ideally, I should be able to send that message um, to an API. I mean, the short term solution, to be honest, would be to have this drop. So in here, we do have the client, which is the Twitch client. If I go to the Twitch client, I think, give me 1 second. Does it have anything weird that I should not be showing? No. Okay, so it starts listening to the, so it starts looking into the Twitch client and then it should observe it. And then I think when it says on message, so when it gets a message, it looks at the messages, it looks at the drop command, does a bunch of things here, and then parses the drop command with channel tags and messages. When it goes here, then it looks at if it was me. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. But I probably don't need to do all of this because a lot of this is done already. Hmm. I can see a lot of things here. So the question now becomes, do we want to create a React application for the game? I already have that with Svelte. Or do we want to create an Angular application with this? Sort array by score. Ooh, fancy. Render scoreboard. Uh-huh. And then where's the HTML? So that's all the So we have all the style here. That's the script, and this is the main content. And we styled this as well. We have left a bunch of why do we have pictures? Ah, okay. Frameworks container. And then we have the target PNG, launchpad, and then we have the style. Okay. So question for the game application, which we have right here, do we want an Angular application or a React application? And if I wanted to host this somewhere as well, I could easily do it with the Firebase configuration that I have. I don't think that's gonna be a problem at all. So maybe we can create we could also create a vanilla JavaScript extension, or sorry, a vanilla application as well without any frameworks, or we could go with either Angular or React. I would love to do it with Angular though. I would love to do it with Angular. Let's do it with Angular. So then let's create a new application. And the idea for us is to work with Firebase. So when we add a new record to a particular chat, we should be able to then see we should be able to then show the game with respect to that when it comes to that. So that means we're gonna have to do a bunch of things, but I think we can start small and see if everything just works fine. So let's create a new application. So in here, I think I have a YouTube. Yeah. So then npm or npx Angular CLI new, or can I do npx ng new? No, Angular CLI new. The application is gonna be, what do we call this? Drop game. Let's call it drop game. Or if you have a good name, suggest me that. Stream drop. Let's call this a stream drop. And it's going to be a standalone application. This is also going to be a there's going to be routing in there. The style is going to be SCSS. So let's create this app. Then we are going to add Firebase to it. Yeah, it is new though. I'm not sure if Firebase is going to work with that. Let's see if Firebase already has support for standalone. So Angular Fire. Let's see, when did they... Okay. Do we have anything that is related with the standalone? Let's see. So if I go here, standalone. Okay, we don't have this standalone support yet. I make a file with Firebase configuration which exports the provide functions, and then I use it in the app configuration. Okay, so what did you do? You imported a bunch of things and you did provide Firebase app, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this helps. So I think I'm going to use this one. All right, so now that we have this created, let's do code, stream drop. All the packages should be installed by now, and then we should be able to do a npm run or npm start. We should also be including Tailwind here. So I'm going to go back to Tailwind CSS and go to Angular so we can quickly get started with that. Where is Angular? There's Angular. So let's run this guy. Where's my other project? Stream drop. So let's install this. Then we are going to do npx tailwind css init. Then we are going to add the content to the Tailwind config, which is right here. Then we are going to use this in the styles.css, source style.css or SCSS. And then all we need to do is run this. So I'm going to restart the server. And then we are going to start porting the component. Okay. So this is going to be interesting because now we are copy pasting from Svelte to Angular, but I think still it's going to be interesting and you'll probably still learn a bunch of things. So let's see. So if I go to stream, and then we have this guy right here. So all right, let's start with the app itself. So if I go to my restream page that is here, I'm going to go here and go to localhost 4200. So this is our Angular application. Stream drop is running. What we want to do in the app is we're not going to have, I think we won't have any headers or anything as such, but we'll just have plain simple HTML. So I'm going to copy this at the moment, and we have assets drop target.png. We're going to copy that as well. So step by step, stream drop should have app root. This should have app component. I'm going to remove everything from here and just put a main right there. Then we should have assets drop target.png. So in our other code, we have assets rocket.gif, no, overlays, public assets drop target.png. So we can have this guy and this guy. So let's copy the drop completely. So we should have this in asset drop, and then we have target png. Now if I go to my browser, I see score, but I don't see the image anywhere. So let's see if everything is working or if we have any issue with the target. And this is hidden, that's why, because so if I hide it, now we can see the styles right here. So I'm gonna make this hidden again. Let's go to our Twitch bot, and in the drops weld we do have a bunch of styles as well, so I have to copy those, and I need to copy all of this. So I'm gonna copy this, go to my style.css, or maybe I think I can put that into app component.tss or css. Let's save this and let's see if anything changes. So if I go and hide or show this this element and remove this, so this still looks weird. So we need to do one thing, and that is, I think global is not something that Angular supports. So I'm going to remove this guy, and wait a second. Yeah, let's remove this guy from all over, and then we have this guy. Let's remove this with this. Okay, so we got scoreboard, blah blah blah. So now this is styled, and if I go here to this element, this image right now, is it shown? No. So now you can see that this looks just like our stream element. So it's quite close now. Cool. Awesome. Now that we have this, let's look into the code of this. So what we want to do is we want to be able to have all these things in our component, and then should be able to work with that. So we're gonna have to change a couple of things, but let's do it step by step. So for our stream component right now, we do have the image right here. In the component class, we're probably gonna have to create a couple of things. So I'm thinking if I should do it the proper way, or if I should just implement it and then maybe I can improve it later on. So let's see. So we do have the render scoreboard right here. All right. So let's see. So we should have a so first let's copy all of the functions, and then we'll move the properties there. So from sleep to calculate store, blah 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 blah, schedule timeout, show target dartboard, hide target dartboard, show score speed, hide score board, blah blah blah. Let's see. So I'm going to copy all of this. Let's go to our Angular code. Here we need to remove this guy and do this, and my camera just died. Let me refresh this. Okay. All right. So then we copy the commands, or not the commands, but the variables. Let's go to Angular now. and we have Angular stream prop right here. I'm gonna close this so we can see more things right here. And there we go. So we add a bunch of things. Oops, what did I just do? So it should be from here to here. Okay, let's copy this guy. Let's come here. And now what I need to do is to not have the const. So I'm gonna delete the const from here. So this, da 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 da. Cool. And now I can also remove the export entity. This guy. Timeout timer. This should be return type. Type off. Set timeout. Set interval. Yes. And now we have a bunch of other things, but we'll fix them one by one. So parse drop needs to change, and this is supposed to be an async function. We are going to just fix it enough so it's not a problem for us. And then this guy changes as well, so we're gonna have an async drop. This is not supposed to be an arrow function. Then we have calculate store async, not an arrow function. Then we have this guy as well. I mean, we could keep them as cons, but I don't want to have them as cons. So this one is supposed to do this. This should say this dot schedule timeout. Then we have this guy as a function. This should also say this dot hide scoreboard. Same goes with this guy right here, const schedule timeout. And we remove this guy. This dot timeout timer, this. Then we have this guy right here. Show dartboard. Let's keep it like this. Then we also have this guy right here. Cool. Then we have the show scoreboard. We have a bunch of more functions to work with, so bear with me. Okay, scoreboard.remove attribute. Then we have the hide scoreboard. Let's get this removed. This is gonna be there. Sort ribeye score. Do this, and then this should be an array of something that has a score number. And we have this guy, render scoreboard, not an arrow function. So this should say this score list dot length, this hide score, this show scoreboard, this sorted by array, this scoreboard dot append child. No, scoreboard comes from, where does this come from? The scoreboard. Oh yeah. Let's remove this guy. And then we have the score item. Where does this come from? Is it this? No. So we have a score list dot find index. Aha, okay. This dot score list dot find index. We should have a username. We have this dot score list. This dot score list dot push. So many red still, but we'll see. And then we have this guy. And we are most likely going to first remove a lot of this and then change it. So animate element, dropped element, and remove this guy. Then we do have and then we have the function step here, which does a bunch of things. Okay. And this can't be. Okay, so when do we call the step function? Let's see. Okay, we call this a step right here. So then that means this has to be a const step equals, because you can't have the, yes, you can't have elimination top. Okay, then we should have this dot max top. Where does the start come from? It comes from here. This dot max velocity, this dot min velocity, max, min, max top, previous timestamp, blah blah blah, start. Okay, so we still have a lot of red things that are going on here. So let's do things step by step. This should be this, this, this. And this should be this, and so we have a sleep, which is supposed to have, okay, promise void, and the timeout itself should be, when we call a timeout, this timeout should be a number, so it goes there. What else are we talking about? So parse drop command, we have a channel tags message. I think the message here is enough. We don't have a channel or tags to work with. I'm going to comment this, the entire code at the moment for this one, because as I said, we are going to go step by step. So channel text message, we don't want those. We only want the message. Okay. Then when we do a drop, the drop requires us to have a wait a second, entity height, entity top. So what I want to do is I want to have a username URL. This URL goes into the dropping entity. Okay, so this is going to be the URL of image. We have the username. What do we use the channel for? Why is the channel here? Do we use the channel anywhere? No, we don't use the channel anywhere. Okay, so then we can remove this guy. Oh, we do have dropping element. Okay. Aha, okay. But then this should be container dot append child element. Then we have elements dot push. Where are the elements? It should be this dot elements. This dot elements dot push dropping element, where we have element, channel, username, and URL. So these should be all right. Let's do it like this. So we have something that should have a type of dropped element, and this should have a bunch of things. It should have an element, HTML element. We should have a username string. We should also have a, so we had a bunch of things. We had the URL, username, and channel. So we should have a URL string, channel string, and then we can use the drop element for this. So the elements is gonna be of type drop element. This element is of type dropped element, and then we can push that, no problem at all. And then this dot animate element is gonna be dropping element. Cool. And this then now becomes the drop element. Then we can get the element, which is going to be HTML element. This makes sense. The step has a timestamp. Wait a second. Okay. let's see. So dropped element dot angle is supposed to still be, so we also would have an angle in here for the dropped element. Angle is supposed to be a number, but then another one of that would fail, which is this one. This is supposed to be a partial of dropped element, but then we can't have this sent there. Okay, then let's make this an optional, because initially it would not have an angle and then it would have an angle later on. So then we get this guy. So we have a const step. This step, when we call this function, we call it with the step timestamp any blah blah blah. But then when we do it with the framework request callback, what does this? So DOM high res timestamp. This is the type. So then the step timestamp is actually DOM high res timestamp. Start should be of DOM has high res timestamp, and previous timestamp should also be of type this. Then we have element query selector. Now this element should be there, but let's see. What are we talking about here? So element, where does that come from? Dropped element. Element. Then you're trying to do element.query selector. This. No. This. No. And then we have a style, does not accept on type element. When we do a dropping inner, where does that come from? Is that a div? Is a div. So then this is supposed to be something like this. So we can say const dropped inner element equals this guy as HTML div element. Then we can do drop element or style or transform, blah blah blah. So all this part is at least green. That makes sense. Then we have animated element dropped. When we call it, we have dropped element, which is of type HTML element. No, it's going to be of type dropped element. Dropped element. The maximum left is supposed to be a property which is supposed to be a number, right? Yeah, supposed to be a number. So this guy then should be a number. Okay, so then this dropping inner. So const dropping inner element equals this guy as HTML div element, and dropping inner element dot style dot transform. This says calculate store is supposed to send dropped element. So this is supposed to actually send us a dropped element, which should make this happy. And this should be still calculate store and like this. Okay. So calculate store, go back there. Nothing right here so far. Good, good, good. Then we go to calculate store, the target board. So it should be this dot target board element. Is it not? Ah, okay. So target board, where is this guy? It should be in the here. Yeah, so it's here. So it is supposed to be an HTML image element. As HTML image element, then rocket element. Where's the rocket element? Dropping inner as HTML div element. Angle. Is it angle? Okay. Number undefined. Ah, okay. Hmm. 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 All right. So let's do this. This angle is recommended or is mandatory. Then what I want to do is I want to go here and then set the angle to 0. Okay. Okay. So going back to the calculate blah blah blah. Where's the calculate? Calculate score. So here then now we're good. So now we have the rocket element that is an HTML div element. Now it says offset of parent. But why? Rocket elements is supposed to be HTML div element. offset parent is properly, no, it's not supposed to be null. But then offset, hmm. But offset parent is not supposed to be null. Wait a second. So we need to now go to Chrome and see what we mean by that. So HTML offset parent. Okay, so offset parent essentially a read element is the closest nearest containment hierarchy. Okay. So then should we have it as a, if I take out the office cons rocket element offset parent equals as HTML div element. If I use this guy right here, should it be okay? Yes, it is. Okay, so then we can say rocket offset parent, offset left, offset left. Then we have this dot add score to board, render scoreboard, da 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 da. So hidden true, hidden true. If you look at the code right now, you can absolutely analyze JavaScript is, I mean, writing JavaScript versus writing TypeScript. You can analyze. So there's so many mistakes that were there in JavaScript, and JavaScript doesn't care. So adding score to scoreboard. Username is string. Score is of type string. So username string. Score is of type string as well. Then we have score item. We're trying to go to score list, and that is never. So score list should have a username. What do we push to score list? Username and score, right? So that means we can also have another type up top. We can say type score item equals username string score string. Then we can go back to score list, and there we can say the score list is of type score item. Then we go here. A lot of it is already happy. What? This dot score list. Array of score list or score item. Then we got this guy right here. And drop username channel. This is of type drop element. Then I see only one red, and that is exciting. Parse command. So this one. All right, now we come to the big boy. So this one is supposed to have a message that is supposed to have a drop element. No, drop element. Does that have a message property? No, no, yes, no. So parse drop command. This is where the fun part comes in, but then what I want to do is so the drop is the command that I want to run, right? So if I go here, or do we have the parse command being used somewhere else? Okay, yes. So if I do something like ng on init, and then I do drop or this dot drop, the URL could be, let's take some URLs from here. Not here, from here. So in here we did have this guy. That is the URL. The username is Ahsan. There's no channel. So if I do the drop, it comes here with the username and channel, and it should also have the angle. So the channel, no, username, channel, and the angle is 0. Not angular, angle. So if I do this, why does it cry? So it says element is declared. Oh, because the element is missing. Oh no, why? But then when we do the drop command, do we send the element itself? Mm, can we have the element as optional then? Would a lot of things start breaking if you do that? So this guy. Now this says element is probably null. Hmm. When we do drop, okay, then I understand. So this should be a partial of dropped element. It doesn't need to have the element there. So then let's remove this guy. And now we have this guy. We have element, channel, this. I think we could, instead of partial, we can say omit, and we can say the element. Okay, then everything else is there. So in TypeScript, if you use omit, we can actually tell from the dropped element, we have a lot of things. So we'll get everything apart from the this, and then I'll also, I think, the what do you call it, angle, and I think it's not this but this. Yes, then once we go here, dropped element, where was it? Drop. So async drop. So then we don't need angle here. Okay, awesome. What happens if we do this? It's gonna be fun. Let's see. If I go to my component and I say implements on init, and then here I do this, but after a set timeout of, I don't know, 3 seconds, then would that work? Let's see. Oh, there we go. Hey. Now the only problem is that it doesn't it doesn't render the animations frame. So it sees it does start with everything, but it doesn't show the render like we do. So in this one, then we do have components, but we also had pages. So the question is why? Really simple question. When we do the drop, it goes here, it creates an element content, it adds that to the page frameworks container, it does that, and then it does this dot animate element. It goes to the animate element, and then it takes everything. I think I'm missing the styles, to be honest. I think I'm missing the styles. Where are my styles? Global CSS. I think I'm missing these styles, to be honest. Let's see. Let's see if I can make this guy work. So if I go to my stream drop, go to a CSS, and I go here, then ng global. What do you mean? Is that because I've used something weird? Is it because this? What does it say? Angular PNG, blah blah blah. But I've removed it, right? Yes, I have. Do I need to restart it? Oh, but this is TwitchBot. Nope. Put it back. I need to remove it from the Angular one, not the Svelte one. Okay, so let's have a look at what's happening. So the top here, dropped, right? The only thing I think that's missing is actually the the position absolute or position fixed. I think it's the position that's missing. Let's have a look at the CAW8 bot. Public assets build drop.css. Global.css. I think we have scoreboard, we have dropping, which has position fixed. Where's the dropping? Uh, okay, so we do have a class list that says dropping, but then do we have the styles applied? Yes, no. Are we missing something else? Let's have a look at the code. Oh, so show the dartboard, show scoreboard, extend timeout, parse drop command. Hmm. Because I can see that at least the image is working fine. Where are the styles of this? So look at this. There are no styles being applied. So dropping dropped, right? I don't see any styles. Why don't I have any styles for this one? Hmm. Let's see. Let's see. So we have the dropping class that is applied, but then we have the style, which is right here. Uh, is it because we are adding it on runtime? I think that could be the case. Because if I apply this style to this guy, which is dropping right now, let's see. So if I apply this style to dropping, oops. So look at this. It at least goes down like this. I don't see an angle that is being changed though. But the top left, all of that is changing. And this should also have position relative, flex 1. But the dropping and dropped doesn't change. All right, let's see what's missing. Let's actually put a button that does it then. In app component, we should have a button that does it. So let's remove this guy. Let's remove this guy as well. And let's remove, or let's move the ng on in it to something like drop. Button, click. And this should then just do it without any questions. The HTML, although for this one, let's add a button. We can say text center. We can say a button, click me, and here we can say drop, click, drop button, click. So now if I go here, I should be able to say this, but this element doesn't seem to be. Now I would have to, I mean, I know I would have to change it for Angular to, because of the styles. I mean, if I moved this, all of this to outside the global one, I think the problem would be fixed. So, but I don't want to do it. But if I have no other option, then yes, I would have to do it. So for example, there we go. How about that? There we go. Whoop. It looks a bit weird, but not as weird as I think it would be. Okay, not too bad, right? So it seems to be working. We don't see the dart at the moment. We don't see the restream icon as well. So some of the things would have to change, but I think still it should look a bit better. So this is the main. This is the container itself. So I think we can remove the container at least from the HTML. So let's see, container. So for the container, I think we have some styles here. We probably shouldn't have that. So if I click this here, okay, and then we have the okay. Let's minimize this guy. So for the text, I think we should still have this. Oops, this main having a class that says minimum height screen. So we at least have that. I want to see where this element is going towards. So for the frameworks container, we have this dropping, which has a position fixed, but shouldn't it have a bottom 0 instead? So when this is dropped, let's have a look. So when this guy is dropped, yeah, the bottom here is supposed to be 0. Okay, let's see. So the extend timeout. So this one, if I go here, it says schedule timeout, clear timeout. When we drop, it animates it. When it animates it, it should say max stop the animation after 2 seconds. Then it comes here, it says step start is undefined, it sets it. If it's equal to the time, then it does it like this. So then should we rather than have it as a wait a second, this gives the velocity, this gives the max left, dropped angle, it also calculates that. If the top is less than this dot max dot top, then it keeps doing it. Then it says animate element dropped. When it goes to dropped, it adds the class dropped, it does all of the things. Then it sets the left to whatever, but then the element dot style dot top should be unset, and the element dot style dot bottom should become 0. This is what we want. So let's see. There we go. So now it looks nice. And we should also have maybe not bottom 0, but maybe 10. Let's see. Oh, no, that is too much because 10 should be 10 pixel. I don't know what that does with the with when it comes to the corner. You see that? Something happens there. Something happens there. What happens at the corner? Is it because when it tries to switch it? So wait a second. So when it goes from shake, rocket dropped animation. Okay, that's different. Parachute. What happens to the element itself? Uh, uh, uh. You see that something happens. Hmm. Okay, I do want to see what happens when we go there. So let's see. Um. Hmm. This is the calculated score. Let's ignore that. If we go to element, then I think this is so when it removes the velocity, dropped angle. When we rotate the angle, I think that's where it tries to go for the angle. I think it's with the dropping inner. So when we go to dropping inner, we have a transition there at all. So here, do we have transition? None. Nope. Still does it. And the dropping itself, transition, is the parachute. Okay. And then the text. Want to see what happens? Hmm. 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 So the element that is the rocket. How about we? All right. So when we do animate element, let's not do this again. So I want to just open this. So this guy right here, this image has something something. This inner is what gets the rotation. So if I do this, mm, but then what happens if I change the angle for this? Or did I remove anything from the rotation? Let's put this back. So if I do this, then you have this guy. This rotate is supposed to be fine. If I change the left of it, then it's not a problem at all because it keeps doing it. Um, I don't think the rotation is a problem. But when does this happen? When it goes to request animation frame with the step, it goes to the step. It does change all the values right here. It changes the angle. It sets the transform to that. Max left. So animate drop max left. Mm, it doesn't happen when we go there, right? Okay, let's try to do this. We refresh this guy now. Okay, I think we can do it like this. Refresh. So when it strikes at one place, I want to do it like this. So it can. So here it did right on the other side. Let's look at that. It doesn't do it. So from here, there it does it. Only on the right side. Why does that do it? And this is the UX engineer in me just not liking it at all. Okay, let's see. So I think when we go here in the set interval, if we have the new left is less than 0, x velocity becomes the new velocity. If the new left is greater than max left, then we have x. Should it be max left minus the this dot or dropping element inner dot client width? I think it should be this, but I'm not sure at all. Let's see. Now, nope. Mm, 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 mm. But this is changing the velocity. I'm not talking about the velocity. We should be talking about the new left. What happens if we don't change the rotation angle? And this is the dropped one, not the dropped one. So step. So in the step, when I'm doing this right here, and if I don't change the angle, what would happen if I don't change the angle? Let's see. Does it do it even then? Yeah, it does it with that. So it's nothing with the angle for sure. Um, but then should I also do this? Let's see. Pa, pa, pa. Does it? Then are we talking about the case where I have to do it if it's max left minus dropped dot client width? Oh, sorry. This guy. Let's see. All right, there we go. We fix it. Hey! So I think this is supposed to be the case. So when it strikes there, it should come back rather than doing it like that. Okay, good, good, good. The only concern I have is that I still don't see the target dashboard, show target dashboard, which we should do by doing this. All right, there we go. Click me. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Something is a bit weird. So this guy image is in here. The calculations are not accurate. Framework container is this one. Okay, let's also put this back where we had the frameworks container. This is the stream drop. Where is the container? So we did have the container as well. Let's see. 73. No. 31. That was not even close. 36. Is this supposed to be bigger, or because I think it calculates it, or it should calculate it from the element itself. All right, let's do it. Let's try this, testing this properly. So if I go here, we should go to app component.ts and calculate score. So this one should calculate the score. Nope, not gonna make it. Nope, no. There we go. So now it has gone below this point. So now we look at the target board element, which is the image. Target board width is 200. Is it 200? Is it 200? Let's have a look at the target board. Target board element, reveal in elements panel. Width is 200 pixel. Okay, then the target board radius is 100, of course. Then we get the rocket element, which is right here. Then we got dropping inner element. Okay. Then we get offset parent, which is the dropped. Then the angle that we got is right now, sorry, -1. Okay. Then the y that we have is there. So if radians is less than 0, then we get the y calculated as this. And if we check the distance of of the y from the center of the board, it's 47. The target board radius is still 100, so this is still in the radius. But if we look at this guy from okay, then we go there, then we do score, run a scoreboard, and this was 52. Okay, that means if I can okay, then I think we are good. So I think we, instead of optimizing it at the moment, I'm gonna double check this as well. So no scoreboard yet. Nobody's hitting that. No. There we go. No hits. No. This guy maybe. Nope. This might hit it. There we go. So 78. Cool. I think we're at a good point. So we can now at least implement the drop feature. So let's quickly do that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna, let's see. So this is 2 hours of stream. So I'm gonna have to stop now so I don't go too much into it. And in the next one, what we're going to do is, now that we have the game right here, we're going to essentially take this and, why don't I see the dartboard? Or is that because of the, it's probably because of the, yeah, taskbar. There we go. So maybe let's try it now. At least one of them should hit it. Nope. This one? It's missing just by this. Let's see. It should be at least one hitting that. This one, 40. Cool. So this is what we are looking at. What I'm going to do in the next stream is I'm going to implement the Firebase now that we have the game ready, and we have the game ready, and we have the extension sort of ready. We're going to implement Firebase on both sides to be able to connect both of them, and then we'll see if the messages then start coming through. So I think this is a really good starting point. So what I'm going to do is at least commit this. I'm not sure if I'm going to improve the code quality of this. I probably will at some point, but if it works, I'm not gonna touch it. I will scale it though at some point, I'm assuming. We'll see. So let's quickly go and deploy this. So I'm gonna go to GitHub, SNIRs. Did we add the last one in Code with Ahsan or no? We did. So then we can say a new one, and we can do restream or stream drop, and the description can be a game to be shown. Oh, I've implemented. I moved the game to Angular. The extension is still React. The game itself is in Angular. So what I'm gonna do is, and it doesn't matter where the game is. So I'm gonna have the game deployed, and anyone can have their games, but the game itself is in Angular. We could do it in React, but I wanted to do in Angular because I'm gonna probably improve it and scale it later on. So I'm a game to be shown on the stream. And now if I go to make it public, we can quickly deploy this as well. So what I want to do is I want to do git init. Let's quickly stop the server. There was also one thing that was related to, I mean, when we want to deploy the game, I could also have now that I think about it, when I want to deploy it, I could just include Firebase hosting to deploy it, as well as the Fire store as well. That could work with that. So I'm not going to deploy it yet. I'm just going to push the code. All right. So we have git status. There's this guy, git commit, feed, drop, implement, drop game. Game works by clicking a button. Parser of the messages still remaining. There we go. Let's also put this right there and git push. So we have that done. We also did the extension, but we improved the extension by starting and observing the messages. So it does work with some dummy messages. For example, here, if I start observing the messages, I should be able to see those messages. The only thing is, now that we add the UUID on each particular element, the data UUID, they will not be processed anymore. So they will only be processed once, if that makes sense. So stop observing messages. And now what I can do is also commit the extension. So here we go. So what did we update? We added Tailwind CSS to the extension. We also updated our webpack config. We added actions. We also added a message class as well. We've got content, blah blah blah. We got pop-up. Improved the UX a bit, and there we go. Okay, so then we can do git add commit feed, we can say that we had messages, add message class, uh, add message class included tailwind css, um, created a message class, and what did I do? Parsed the message HTML. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to push the changes to the GitHub so you can also get it from there if you want. The next step for us is going to be to use Firebase to communicate between this and the other one. The GitHub repo, if you go to codewithahsan.dev, no, if you go to github.com/ahsanayaz and my repositories, you're going to find both of those. So if you go to ahsanayaz and repositories, they should be the top two. So Chrome extension restream and stream drop. Both of them are here. So codewithahsan, github.com/ahsanayaz. All right. So I'm going to stop right here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And this was fun. And this message that you see, drop me, this is going to start working when we have this implemented from the Firebase side. So hopefully in the next stream. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy coding.